I didn't fall in love with my kidnapper, that's not what this is. God, even typing that sounds insane, like I'm already imagining the comments. You're trauma-bonded, seek help, Stockholm Syndrome much? And maybe you're right, maybe I'm just another broken thing pretending my damage is romantic. I don't know. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I shouldn't even be writing this. I'm probably going to delete it. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I need someone, anyone, to hear this because I can't keep swallowing it like it's not rotting me from the inside out. I fought it. I fought him, every step of the way. With teeth. With silence. With every ounce of control I thought I had left. But now I'm sitting here, looking back at everything, and I don't even know who the villain is anymore. Maybe it's him. Maybe it's my father. Maybe it's me. Maybe I was always the problem. Maybe I wanted to be taken. Maybe I was just waiting for someone to see me, even if it meant tearing everything down around me to do it. I don't have friends. Not real ones. Not anymore. I burned all of that to the ground. I think I burned her to the ground too. The version of me who used to believe in right and wrong. Loyalty and duty, the good daughter. I don't even know where that girl went. I think she died the night I didn't run. Or maybe she died a long time before that. I'm not asking for advice. I'm not looking for sympathy. I just need to say this somewhere. I need to let it out, even if it comes out wrong and messy and makes people hate me. I deserve that. Maybe, I've hated me too. People think my father is this noble leader. That he protects our kind, keeps the peace, that he's strong and stoic and righteous. He tells them what they want to hear and they eat it up because he speaks with that voice, you know? That voice that makes you feel like you're safe even when he's holding the knife. But behind those speeches and that polished smile is a man who taught me that love was a weapon. Silence was survival, and loyalty only mattered when it served him, and Elias. Fuck, I don't even know how to explain him without sounding like I've lost it. I hated him, I wanted to hate him, he stole me, he dragged me away from everything I knew, and yet, he didn't break me. I cracked on my own. I think I was already broken when he found me. I think he just saw the pieces for what they were and didn't look away, and that scared me more than anything. But that's not even the beginning. That's just where the thread started to unravel, and if I pull it, I don't know if anything will be left, except maybe the truth, or whatever version of it I can live with. If I can live with any of it, God, where do I even start? It wasn't a cell, that's the part that still messes with my head. There were no chains, no locks, no guards pacing outside the door with weapons drawn, just silence, expensive silence, and the room, I hate that I called it a room, like it wasn't something else. It was beautiful, floor-to-ceiling windows, all that sterile, polished stone, soft rugs you could sink your bare feet into. There was a library wall, a fire that lit itself when the light outside dipped, the bed had velvet sheets, for God's sake. I think there was even lavender oil on the pillows, like it was supposed to help me sleep, like comfort could erase what had just happened. I didn't touch anything for 2 days, I just sat there on the edge of that stupid bed, heart jackhammering in my ribs, expecting someone, him, to come in and drag me off to some dungeon or basement or I don't know, whatever monsters do when they steal their enemies' daughters. But no one came. There was food delivered, untouched. I didn't eat, I didn't shower, I didn't even cry. I just kept thinking, this isn't what cages are supposed to look like. Cages are supposed to have bars, chains, suffering, not sunlight and silk, and I think that's when it started, the confusion. That crack that would turn into something I couldn't seal later, because when nothing happened, when no one hurt me, I didn't feel relieved, I felt suspicious, angry, even, like he was trying to get into my head, and the worst part is, it worked, because I started asking myself the worst question, why isn't this worse? I mean, yeah, I was still terrified, still furious, still plotting in my head how I'd claw his eyes out if he ever got close enough, but I started looking at the books on the shelves, not reading them, just noticing. Some of them were ones I'd loved as a kid, one of them, The Night Wolf's Daughter, I hadn't seen since I was 12, I didn't think anyone even remembered I liked it, which is insane, right? Like what the hell was that doing in his house? Did he stalk me? Did someone tell him? Or was it a coincidence? No, nothing about him ever felt like coincidence, and that made it worse, so much worse, because that's when I realized. The room wasn't a mistake, it was chosen for me, like a gift, like a trap disguised as a kindness, and suddenly, I wasn't in a prison, I was the prison, I was the damn lock, and he was just waiting for me to click shut on myself, and I did. It happened so fast I almost convinced myself it didn't, like maybe I imagined it, or made it worse in my head than it really was. But no. I remember the cold. I remember the smell. I remember the moment my body stopped listening to me. It was raining, not a storm, just that annoying kind of rain that feels like it's trying to crawl under your skin. I was on my way back from some pointless diplomacy function, dressed like a doll in this too-tight navy gown my father picked. He said it made me look like a symbol. I remember that word, like I was a damn flag he could wave at rival packs to prove his house was still strong, still untouchable. Our driver took a different turn, said something about road closures. I didn't question it. I never questioned things back then. I was trained not to. We didn't even make it 2 minutes down the new route before everything changed. The car stopped, my guard turned, not in panic, not in confusion, just turned, like he was expecting it, and before I could process it, the back door opened and, God, I can still see the silhouette, him, Elias, standing there like he belonged in that moment. No words, just his eyes, cold, focused, too calm. I opened my mouth to scream, to shift, to do something, but I never got the chance. There was this sharp sting in my neck, a needle, I think, and then the world just tilted. And here's the part one hate admitting, the part that makes me feel sick when I think about it too long. Right before the darkness swallowed me, I smelled something, not the rain, not the leather seats or the blood rushing in my ears. I smelled him, and it was wrong. It was so wrong, because it didn't smell like fear, or rot, or threat. It smelled like fire, like home, like something I'd forgotten I missed. And then everything went black. I woke up in that too soft bed with my wrists free and my mind screaming. Everything was too quiet, no shouting, no demands, just my heartbeat punching at my ribcage and that smell again. That same impossible scent, like wood smoke and lightning and something. Mine? No, not mine. His. I didn't know that yet. Not really, but my body already did. I barely had time to sit up before the door opened. No knock, just opened, slow and deliberate, like he wanted me to know he didn't need permission. And there he was, Elias Voss, Alpha of Midnight Ridge, enemy to my father, kidnapper, war criminal, billionaire CEO, or whatever headline the world decided to slap on him that week. But none of that mattered in that second. All I could see were his eyes. That was the first time it hit me. The way he looked at me, not like prey, not like a hostage, like he knew me, like he'd already seen every version of me, even the ones I hadn't lived yet. He didn't say hello, didn't say, I'm sorry, or, you're safe, or, don't scream. He just stood there for a long, long second, and then said it, mate, like it was fact, like it was law, like the moon herself had whispered it to him and he was just repeating it. I laughed, I actually laughed, short and bitter and shaky as hell. I said, you've got to be fucking kidding me, and he didn't flinch, just tilted his head, like a wolf studying something he couldn't quite reach. You know it too. He said, calm, too calm, you felt it. I told him he was sick, delusional, that I wasn't a shifter, I wasn't his anything, and I sure as hell didn't believe in fairy tale bonds between enemies. I said it with venom, I meant it, I thought I meant it. But even after he left, even after I'd curled up on the floor and cried in the corner where the cameras couldn't see me, I kept hearing it, that word, mate, like it had been carved into me. I hated it, I hated him, but I hated that part of me. That deep, buried, animal part, that didn't. And that was the beginning of the end. Before all this, before the room, before the bond, before Elias ruined everything or maybe unruined everything, I was the perfect daughter. At least that's what I told myself, that's what he told me. Polished, poised, strategic, a symbol, remember? Not a person, not a girl, just a walking, breathing extension of his influence, a carefully trained smile, a bowed head when necessary, razor-edged charm when useful. I knew every rule, knew how to disappear when the tension in his jaw tightened by half an inch, knew how to flatter dignitaries and tear down rivals without ever raising my voice. They used to say I was elegance incarnate. My father loved that phrase, elegance is influence. Aria, he said it like a sermon, like if I bled the right shade of red, I could change history. I used to believe it, that if I just followed the path he carved for me, I could do something important. Fix what the wars broke, unite the fractured bloodlines, make him proud. God, I was so desperate to make him proud. And my mother. She wasn't there, not really, she died when I was little, at least, that's what he told me. Sometimes I think I remember her voice, soft and distant like it's coming through water. She used to hum something, I don't know what it was, but I'd hear it sometimes when I couldn't sleep, like the walls of the estate were breathing with it. My father said she was weak, said she was kind in all the wrong ways, that if I'd inherited any of her softness, he'd beat it out of me before the world did. He was always preparing me for something, for war, for power, for marriage, to be traded like currency, to be used, but he called it legacy, he called it love, and I swallowed it, because what else was I supposed to do? I had no one else, I had no truth to compare it to, and now I don't even know what I was protecting, what all that obedience was for, what all that silence bought me, besides a lifetime of watching myself from the outside like I was playing a role I never auditioned for. Maybe I wasn't the perfect daughter, maybe I was just his most obedient prisoner, and maybe I was too damn proud to admit I hated the chains until someone else came along and showed me they could be broken. He never touched me. Not once, not when I screamed at him, not when I threw a glass at the wall 2 inches from his face, not when I curled up on the floor and sobbed so hard I shook, not even when I wanted him to, not like that, not wanted, I mean. God, I don't even know what I mean, he just stood there, always, still, watching, waiting, like he knew something I didn't, like he could see the hourglass running out and was just being patient about it. That made it worse. If he'd hurt me, if he'd grabbed me or caged me or forced his hand on me, I could have hated him cleanly. I could have screamed monster and meant it without a shred of doubt. But he didn't play the part one had written for him in my head. Instead, he brought food and left it by the door without saying a word. He turned his back when I showered. He said things like, "You don't have to be afraid here," which pissed me off more than threats would have, honestly, because I was afraid. I was drowning in it, but not in the way I expected, not in the way that made sense. And when I accused him of manipulation, of trickery, of mind games, he didn't deny it, he just looked at me like I was breaking his heart, which is insane. It was supposed to be my heart on the line. He was supposed to be the villain, the cruel, violent alpha who stole the precious daughter of the high alpha and kept her as leverage. Instead, he moved like someone trying not to spook a wounded animal. He asked questions instead of making demands. Do you want the windows open? Are you warm enough? Do you remember your dreams? Who asks that? Who kidnaps someone and then just waits? Unless you think they'll come to you, unless you know something they don't, unless the thing you're waiting for isn't submission, but realization. And I think that's what started to terrify me, because what if he wasn't wrong? What if there was something inside me that already belonged to him? And what if that was the part I'd been taught to kill first? The dream started on the 3rd night. I hadn't slept since I got there, not really, just closed my eyes and drifted in and out, listening for footsteps that never came, trying to hold on to anger like it was armor, like if I let myself rest I'd forget why I was furious in the first place. But that night, I slipped, and she was waiting, a woman in white, barefoot in the snow. Her hair was long and black and wild, like it belonged to someone who didn't care who was watching. Her skin was pale, glowing in that sick, silver light, and her eyes, God, her eyes, weren't human, or wolf, they were something older. She didn't say much, just stood there, halfway between me and this huge tree that was bleeding down its bark like it had been stabbed through the heart. She held her hand out, like she wanted me to come closer, and then she said my name, but not the way anyone else says it, not flat like my father, not careful like Elias. She said it like it meant something, like she was trying to remind me of a version of myself I'd buried a long time ago. Aria, like a whisper and a warning. Then I heard the howl, not hers, mine, except I've never howled. I wasn't a wolf, I didn't shift, I was human, trained and tested and confirmed. That was the whole point. That's why my father could parade me around without fear, because I'd never turn. I was safe, controlled. But in the dream, I wasn't. In the dream I was running barefoot through snow, skin splitting open like fire, teeth lengthening, bones cracking. In the dream I was screaming and howling and the moon was red like blood. And then I'd wake up, heart clawing at my chest, drenched in sweat, that smell of pine and fur and something old still clinging to my skin. I didn't tell anyone. Who the hell was there to tell? But the worst part wasn't the fear, it was the ache, like my body missed something it never had, like that howl wasn't a dream at all, like it was a memory. It was barely a second. I wasn't even looking for it. I was too busy pretending he wasn't there, again, sitting across the room like a statue that could breathe. We'd been doing this thing where he'd bring the tea himself, not because I drank it, I didn't, but because I think he needed the routine, or maybe he thought I needed it, I don't know. But that day, it was hot, late afternoon light pouring in through the glass like the sun wanted to pry me open. He'd taken off his jacket, First time I'd ever seen him without it. He was always so composed, covered, measured, and then I saw it, right along his ribs. Just under the white shirt clinging to his skin from heat or maybe sweat, this jagged line of scar tissue, thick and brutal and ugly, not surgical, not neat. It looked like something had tried to rip him in half, and he caught me staring. I didn't mean to, my eyes locked on it and I couldn't look away, not because I was afraid, because I'd seen wounds like that before, back in my father's war rooms. In training vids and classified footage, I knew what left marks like that. I knew how close he had to be to death to survive something like that, but he didn't cover it, didn't shift or flinch or smirk like it was some battle trophy. He just said, "It doesn't hurt anymore," not like he was bragging, not even like he was talking to me, more like he was trying to convince himself. I wanted to ask what gave it to him, I wanted to not care, I wanted to keep hating him, to keep him in that clean little category, enemy, captor, monster, but I couldn't, because something cracked in me right then. Something small and stupid and inconvenient, empathy, or maybe recognition, because I knew what it was like to bleed quietly, to carry pain like it owed you rent. And I hated him more for that. I hated him for showing me his scar like it was nothing, because suddenly, I wanted to show him mine, and that terrified me. I was brushing my hair. That's the part that sticks with me, for some reason, that something so stupid and small was the last normal thing I was doing before everything tore open. I wasn't thinking about Elias. Not that time. I was trying not to. I was trying to ignore the dreams, the scar, the tea he kept bringing like we were in some twisted little routine. I just wanted one moment where I felt like I still had a body that belonged to me, hands that weren't shaking, breath that didn't hitch every time I thought I smelled him on the air. Then the glass shattered. It wasn't like the other times he opened the door, quiet, deliberate. This was violence. 1 second the room was still. The next there was blood in the air and something cold crawling down my spine like death had just walked in wearing someone else's skin. I didn't even see the vampire at first, just a blur, a shape. I thought maybe I was dreaming again, caught in one of those visions where my body didn't know if it was girl or wolf or ghost. But then I saw the eyes, red, dead, hungry, and everything in me went silent. I couldn't scream, I couldn't move, I was frozen, completely useless. I hate that part. I hate that I didn't fight. Didn't shift, didn't do anything. But he did. Elias was there before I could blink. I don't even know how. I just remember the sound. Bones cracking, something tearing, that deep, guttural growl I'd only heard once before, in one of my dreams, except this time it wasn't coming from me. It was him. He slammed the vampire into the wall so hard the paintings fell. The floor shook. There was blood, so much blood, and I couldn't tell whose it was, and then I felt it. Not the fear, not the fight, the pain, like something had reached inside me and snapped my ribs open, like fire crawling under my skin. I dropped to the ground without understanding why and clutched my side like I had been stabbed. But it wasn't me, it was him. I looked up and saw it, saw the gash across his ribs, deep and ugly, and it was in the same place as the scar I saw days before. But this time, it was fresh, and I could feel every inch of it. The vampire ran, or maybe Elias let him go. I don't remember. I just remember him on his knees, blood dripping from his mouth, and me crawling toward him without thinking, like I had to touch him to make it stop, like touching him would fix the thing breaking in both of us. He looked at me, not like a captor, not like a man who'd won, but like he was in pain because I was. Why do I feel it? I whispered, voice cracked and useless. He just swallowed hard and said, "Because you're mine," and this time, I didn't laugh, because it wasn't a lie. There was a night I could have run. I don't think I've said that out loud before, not to myself, not to anyone. I had the chance, real chance, no guards, no locked doors, no one watching. It was right after the vampire, after Elias collapsed in the hall and they dragged him off, bleeding and unconscious. And I was left standing there like some dumb porcelain doll that cracked but never shattered. They forgot to lock the back gate. No cameras back there. I don't think they expected me to even notice. I wasn't supposed to be paying attention. I was supposed to be curled up in shock, maybe crying into a silk pillow or whatever they thought broken girls did. But I noticed everything. The way the gate was just open, not wide, but enough. The scent of gas from the SUV idling in the corner of the garage. Keys still in the ignition, moon high and sharp above the trees like it was pointing at the road I was supposed to take. And I stood there, for what felt like forever, hand on the gate, 1 foot past it, breathing so loud I thought I'd scream. And I didn't move. I could've, I should've. That's the part that kills me. No one stopped me. No one begged or threatened or dragged me back by the throat. I stopped myself. I don't even know why. I want to say I was scared, but that's not true. I've done scarier things for less. I've lied in front of kings. I've signed deals with men who looked at me like a prize cow and smiled. So what the hell was it? Was it the bond? Was it some primal instinct keeping me tethered like a dog on an invisible leash? Or was it something worse? Like maybe I didn't want to go. God, I hate myself for that. I hate that I hesitated, that I didn't run, that some part of me, some sick, quiet part one never let speak, wanted to stay, wanted to know if he'd live, wanted to be there when he opened his eyes. What does that say about me? What kind of girl stands at the edge of her freedom and walks backward? I didn't fall in love with my kidnapper, I just forgot how to leave. I wasn't trying to find anything, I was just angry, bored, pacing like a caged thing again, like maybe if I touched enough things, I'd remember who I was, or who I was supposed to be. He left his study unlocked, Elias, which was stupid, or intentional, I don't know which is worse. I don't even know why I went inside. Maybe I wanted to steal something, maybe I wanted to feel powerful for once, maybe I just wanted to break something of his. The desk was organized. Of course it was. Everything in this place was sharpened and placed with surgeon-level precision, but tucked under a stack of field maps and inventory manifests was this leather folder, black, unmarked, sealed with a string like it wasn't trying to be secret, just set aside. I opened it. God, there were letters, dozens, most typed, a few handwritten, all stamped with my father's crest, that stupid gold wolf head embossed into the corner like it was supposed to mean honor or loyalty or truth or whatever bullshit he fed me since I could talk. But they weren't addressed to allies, not to other packs, not to councils. They were to vampires. Not just messages, either. Negotiations, promises, land trades, protection clauses. One even included a list of pack leaders for execution. Elias's name was at the top of every single one. He wasn't making war plans, he was making contracts, and I couldn't breathe, because all my life, I thought the war was simple, us and them, wolves and leeches, my father, the last noble alpha standing against a tide of rot. That was the narrative, that was the story I was raised to protect. That's why he needed me, his daughter, his weapon, his mask of diplomacy. But he lied, and not just to the public, to me, too. My face. For years, he wasn't fighting monsters, he was inviting them in, and I don't know what hurt more. Knowing the man I feared was just another corrupt politician, or realizing that Elias never said a word. He could have thrown it in my face, could have humiliated me with it, but he let me find it on my own. I used to think betrayal felt like a knife, but this was quieter, slower, like watching someone you love take off their mask and realizing the monster was underneath it the whole time. I slammed them on his table. Not gently, not like I was making a point, like I wanted to hurt. They slid across the wood, half unfolding, pages spilling open like entrails, like secrets with blood still on them. My hands were shaking and I didn't care if he saw. I was daring him to look smug, daring him to gloat, to smile like he'd won. He didn't. He looked at the papers, then at me. That's it. No smirk, no cruel little I told you so, just this tired understanding, like he knew I'd end up here, like he'd been waiting. I wanted you to see it yourself, he said, that's all. Not this is why I took you, not now do you believe me? Not your father's a liar, just that. I wanted to scream, I wanted to hit him, I wanted to rewind the last 10 minutes and never open that goddamn folder because now everything was wrong. My whole life, my whole spine, my whole identity was built on hating him, hating his kind, believing my father was the last pure thing in a rotting world. But he wasn't, and Elias wasn't even angry. He just sat there like the weight of it was something he carried already, like it wasn't news to him, like it was grief. I didn't know what to say. I think I said, you could have told me, and he said, you wouldn't have believed me. I didn't argue, because he was right. I would have spit in his face, I would have called it propaganda, I would have walked back to my room and added another layer of steel around my heart and told myself that anything that made me question my father was manipulation. But seeing it, holding those pages, reading my father's signature at the bottom of a letter that named Elias for slaughter, I didn't feel powerful, or righteous, or even angry anymore. I felt stupid. I felt like a child with blood on her hands and no idea how it got there. And the worst part? He didn't gloat, because he didn't need to. He just looked at me like he'd seen this all before, like he'd watched too many daughters break the same way. I asked him to lie to me. God, I know how pathetic that sounds, I know, but I needed it, just for a second, just long enough to breathe without choking on everything I thought I knew. I stood there, with those fucking papers still crumpled in my fist, my voice already breaking before I even said it. Tell me it's not true, I didn't even mean the letters by then. I meant all of it, everything, my father, the war, the cage I grew up in that I thought was a throne, the bond twisting inside me like a second heartbeat I never asked for. I needed him to say something, anything, deny it, laugh, get angry, say it was fake, or twisted, or that I didn't read it right. But he didn't. He just stood there, watching me come apart, and he said nothing. That silence was worse than any truth, because I knew then, he wasn't cruel, he wasn't trying to break me. He just didn't want to be the one to keep pretending, not for me, not anymore. And I think that hurt the most, because it meant he still saw something in me worth telling the truth to, and I wasn't ready for that. I didn't want to be worth that, I just wanted the lie. The lie was easier. The lie was warm, familiar. It smelled like my father's cologne and the polished floors of the estate and the bedtime stories about honor and legacy and enemies who were born bad, not made. The truth was cold. It sounded like my father signing away lives, like Elias bleeding for me, like silence where there should have been rage. And I cracked. I sat on the floor of that office and I cried, like a fucking child, ugly, dry-throated sobs I hadn't let out since I was little, since before I learned how to swallow every emotion before it made a sound. I don't even think I cried when my mother died. And still, he didn't speak. He didn't come closer. He didn't offer comfort. He didn't leave, either. He just let me shatter, quietly, completely. Like he knew I needed to, like he remembered what it felt like. And I think I hated him for that. Just a little, because I wasn't ready to be seen, not like that. I broke the mirror, not for drama, not for symbolism. I didn't think it would even crack. It was the one in my room, the gilded one with that stupid ornate frame. Like every inch of this place had to remind me I was a guest in a palace, not a prisoner in a cell. I looked at myself in it, and I don't even know what set me off. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the fact that my face still looked calm, like I hadn't just watched my whole identity rot out from under me, like I didn't feel like screaming, or vomiting, or clawing my own skin off to get to whatever was pulsing underneath. I don't even remember making a fist, it just happened. My hand connected with the glass, and it shattered with this quiet little snap, like it had been waiting for permission. Blood ran faster than I expected. I just stared at it, and all I could think was, why didn't I shift? Because isn't that what's supposed to happen? When the pain hits deep enough? When the anger gets too loud? The stories say it's instinctual, that the wolf comes out when there's no other option, that your body remembers even when your mind doesn't. But I just stood there, human, shaking, hand bleeding and still, just me. If I'm not a wolf, why do I feel like one dying? Why does it hurt in places I don't have names for? Why do I feel caged in my own skin, like something inside is trying to crawl out and can't? I wrapped my hand in a towel. I didn't call for help. I didn't tell Elias. I didn't want his pity. I didn't want his eyes on me again, like I was something he was waiting to bloom. I didn't want to be his prophecy. I just wanted to bleed without an audience. Maybe that's all I've ever wanted. It was the first time he took me past the gates. No guards trailing us, no cameras, no leash, not even a word, just a look. That look he gives like he's asking without asking, like he already knows the answer and is giving you the illusion of choice. And I went, I don't know why, maybe because my hand had just stopped throbbing, maybe because I couldn't stand the mirror being gone, maybe because staying inside felt like suffocating, and walking beside him felt like something between penance and freedom. The estate isn't the pack, not really. It's a cage with velvet walls and secrets stitched into the curtains. But outside, God, there was light and air, and wolves, actual wolves, not the metaphor kind. Some in human form, some in fur, some somewhere in between, like shifting didn't scare them, like they were home in their own bodies. They looked at me like they knew me, like they were waiting, like I was something sacred and ruined at the same time. One of them bowed. I flinched. Another offered me her hand. I almost didn't take it. They didn't call me prisoner. They didn't call me traitor. They called me Luna. I wanted to scream. I wanted to correct them. I wanted to shout I am not yours or this is a mistake or don't touch me like I'm something gentle. But I didn't, because their eyes weren't cruel, their voices weren't rehearsed. No one flinched when Elias passed. No one groveled either. They just belonged, and I didn't know what to do with that, because where I came from, respect was fear, and love was obedience, and kindness was always a setup. But here there were kids playing in the mud, and women shifting mid-laugh, and warriors who smiled when Elias looked at them, not like soldiers, like family. It should have made me angry. It should have made me fight, but instead I just stood there, wind in my hair, blood still crusted under my sleeve, and I let one of the pups curl around my ankles like I was safe to touch. I didn't feel like a prisoner, I didn't feel like a weapon, I didn't feel like a lie. I felt wanted, and that was so much worse. I asked him what he'd do if I ran again. It came out quieter than I meant it to, somewhere between a threat and a prayer, like I wanted him to dare me, grab my wrist, say I won't let you go again, something solid, something cruel, something that made sense. But he didn't, of course he didn't. He just looked at me, still half covered in ash from the run through the forest. His shirt was torn. I think one of the wolves tackled him mid-shift in play, and he'd laughed. I didn't know he could do that, I didn't know that sound. And then I asked, because I couldn't not ask, because I needed to know if the door was still there, if the line was still drawn, if I could still be the enemy. He didn't even blink, didn't sigh, didn't play whatever game I thought I was starting. I'd let you, he said, but I'd feel every step you took away from me, just like that, like it was the simplest thing in the world, like it would break him, and he'd let it, and I think I stopped breathing, just for a second, because I felt it, the way his voice caught on the word feel, like it hurt just saying it, the way something in my chest responded, like a string being pulled tight. I used to think the bond was a trick, a leash, some biological cruelty meant to control us, and maybe it still is, but this wasn't about biology. It was about him, choosing me even if I ran, even if I tore him apart with every mile. I didn't run, I just stood there, stupid and raw and aching in ways I didn't know how to name, and I wanted to hate him for it. I wanted to call it weakness, call it manipulation, call it something ugly and easy to discard, but it wasn't, it was soft and unbearable, because what do you do with a man who'd bleed for you, and then let you go anyway? It happened during the storm, not a metaphor, not some poetic lightning in my soul crap, a real storm, loud and alive and angry, like the sky was screaming with me. I remember the rain hitting the glass like it was trying to get in, the wind howling like something was answering from the woods. My skin felt too tight, my teeth ached, my bones were buzzing, and I couldn't breathe. At first I thought it was a panic attack. I'd had a few, back when I was younger, back when I still cried in private. And my father still pretended to be human. This was worse, deeper, like something underneath was clawing to get out. I don't know if I called for Elias, I don't remember, but he was there. I think he always knows before I do. I was on the floor, half naked, shaking like a leaf in a hurricane, my back arched so hard I thought it would snap in half, every joint felt like it was dislocating at once. My skin burned like fire ants were crawling under it. I screamed, I howled. He didn't say a word. He just picked me up, soaked and thrashing and not even fully human anymore. My hands were claws by then, or maybe I imagined that, and he held me like I was sacred, like I wasn't ripping myself apart in his arms. I thought I was dying. Maybe I was, maybe the version of me I used to be did die. That's what it felt like my ribs cracked open and something ancient crawled out, something that had always been there, buried under silk dresses and obedience and cold lessons about loyalty. And then silence. Not outside, the thunder was still tearing through the sky, but inside me? Quiet, not peace, not calm, just stillness, the kind that comes after a scream too long held in, the kind that follows ruin. I stood in the dark, drenched in rain and blood and whatever was left of my old skin, and I wasn't just changed, I was unrecognizable, to them, to me. To the part of me that still wanted to be my father's daughter. I wasn't just born, I was split open, and when Elias looked at me, like I was something both holy and terrifying, I didn't flinch. That scared me more than the pain. I kissed him first, that was my mistake. It wasn't instinct, it wasn't the mate bond pulling strings behind my ribs, it wasn't magic, it was me. I wanted him. God, that sounds so much uglier when I say it out loud, when I admit it, because desire was never supposed to be mine. It was a weapon, not a right, a tool my father taught me to wield when words weren't enough, flirt when you need power, withdraw when you want control. Love? Love was for fools. But I kissed Elias like I was starving, and he didn't even touch me, not at first. His hands didn't move, his body didn't lean in, he just stood there, letting me do it, letting me choose, letting me fall. His mouth was warm, I remember that, and still, and patient, and then, not. He kissed me back like he was afraid of breaking me and desperate to taste what was already his in some way he hadn't dared to believe. It wasn't rough, it wasn't sweet, it was real, and that's what ruined me, because I didn't feel claimed, I didn't feel hunted, I didn't feel cornered. I felt wanted, not by a prophecy, not by fate, not by his wolf or mine or whatever ancient bloodline bullshit is stitched between us, just me, Aria, and that was the moment everything cracked, not when I shifted, not when I screamed under the moon, not even when I found out who my father really was. It was when I realized I wanted to kiss him, not because the bond told me to, not because I needed him, but because I chose him, even if just for that second. And you can't undo that, you can't crawl out of your own skin once it fits. You can't take a kiss back just because it made you feel too much. So yeah, I kissed him first, and I can still taste the ash and rain and guilt on my tongue. He didn't chain me, didn't even touch me. Just opened the door. I don't even remember what I said, maybe nothing, maybe I just stood there like a ghost stuffed into skin, like if I moved too fast I'd crack the floor open under both of us, or maybe I did say something stupid, something too soft, I can't tell anymore. The memory feels like it's underwater, like I'm underwater. Everything is foggy except the door and the fact that it was open and he wasn't stopping me. No guards, no tracking collars, no warning growl or silent threat, just him, just Elias, just the stupid sound of rain again. Of course it was raining, of course the sky knew before I did. You're free, he said. I think I laughed, not because it was funny but because it was so stupid. What does that even mean? Free from what? From him? From everything he didn't do to me? Or free from the part of me I'd started to believe was real? Because I swear to God, part of me thought I'd leave claw marks in the floor as he dragged me back. I thought I'd fight and scream and win or lose, but at least I'd do something. But I didn't do anything, I didn't even move. He didn't drag me, he didn't beg, he didn't stop me. And that made it worse. Because if he didn't want to keep me, if he let me go, then what the hell have I been trying to escape from? It would have been easier if he'd been the monster they warned me about, if he had kept me caged or marked or broken, if he had claimed me like property, if I could point to something and say, that right there, that's why I hate him. But he didn't, he just opened the fucking door. I stood on the threshold like a coward, like some broken doll with its strings cut, thinking this is it, this is what I wanted, and feeling everything inside me split like old fabric. No blood, no scream, just this awful, endless tearing. I walked out, because I thought that would make it stop hurting. I thought freedom meant silence, peace, closure. But all I heard when the door shut behind me was my own heartbeat. Still beating like it remembered his, and it hasn't shut up since. The gates opened before I even got close, like they were waiting, like they knew. I didn't knock, didn't call ahead, I just walked in, muddy and soaked and shaking like a stray dog dragging guilt on its leash. My shoes left streaks on the marble floor. No one stopped me, no one looked me in the eye, like I was invisible or radioactive or both. I didn't know what I was expecting, maybe a war, a cell, a silver knife under the ribs. But it wasn't like that, it was worse. He hugged me, God, he hugged me like I was his little girl again, like I hadn't just disappeared, like I hadn't chosen him, like I hadn't made it dirty, like he could squeeze the rot out of me with his arms. And then he said it, right into my ear, barely a whisper, like a prayer. He didn't mark you, good, like that was all that mattered, not what I'd seen, not what I knew, not the dreams or the shifting or the fact that I don't even recognize my own reflection anymore, just that, just my neck, just clean skin. I wanted to throw up, I still might, because I should have been relieved, I should have been proud. That's what I was raised to be, loyal, pure, untouchable. I was the weapon sharpened on his lies. I was the daughter who knew her place. I should have looked him in the eye and said, yes, I escaped, you were right, he's the monster. But I didn't say anything, I couldn't, because the only thing I felt in that moment, the only thing, was empty. And that's the part one can't forgive myself for, not the kiss, not the bond, not even the shift. It's that I came home, and I felt nothing, nothing but the sound of my heartbeat, still sync to his. I wasn't looking for it, swear to God, I wasn't looking for anything, I wasn't ready to find anything, I just wanted to feel normal for 5 seconds, maybe pretend that coming back meant something could go back to how it was before everything cracked open. But the closet in her room still smells like her, lavender and something wild I couldn't name when I was little. I used to think it was perfume, now I know it was fur. There was a box behind her old dresses, wooden, locked, but I found the key taped behind her favorite painting, the one with the full moon in the meadow. I don't know if she meant for me to find it, or if she thought she'd never get the chance to show me herself. There were letters, dried flowers, a strand of hair that wasn't quite brown, not quite silver, and her journal. The pages were yellowed, warped with time, ink bleeding from the edges, some torn out, some with words scratched so hard the paper tore, like she was afraid even her silence might betray her. She wrote about the shifting, about the hunger in her bones when the moon was full, about hiding it, about him, my father, and the way he looked at her like she was a creature instead of a woman, a wild thing to tame, or break. She wrote about the night she stopped changing, not because she wanted to, because he made her. If I stay soft, he'll let me live, she wrote. If I bleed quiet, he won't make me disappear. And I just sat there, holding her words in my shaking hands, realizing everything he ever said to me, about loyalty, about purity, about wolves being the enemy. He was talking about her. He married her, he buried her, he made her vanish in pieces, one shift at a time, and then he took me and wrapped me in the same silver lies until I couldn't see what I was becoming, or what I already was. I used to think I lost her to illness. That's what he told me, that's what everyone said. Cancer or heartbreak or whatever story made him look the least monstrous. But now I wonder if he killed her in increments, with silence, with shame, with the same control he tried to chain me with. And the part that makes my blood boil, the part one can't scream loud enough, is she died before she ever got to run. He clipped her like a goddamn trophy, and all this time, I was the one standing guard at the cage door, thinking I was the princess when really I was just the next cell. She wasn't weak, she wasn't broken, she just didn't get out fast enough, and neither did I. He said it like it was love, like it was some twisted fatherly pride. You were meant to end his bloodline, Aria, not join it. I wish I could say I screamed, that I hit him, that I tore the room apart or shifted right then and there and showed him what kind of monster he'd made, but I didn't do any of that. I just stood there, stupid, frozen, like the words needed time to detonate. Meant to, like my life was a blueprint, a strategy, a goddamn weapon schematic with my veins as fuses and my spine as a detonator. And he lit it the second I was born. Every bedtime story, every silver spoon, every lesson about the right kind of blood, and the right kind of loyalty, and the way he'd wrinkle his nose if I ever even looked at a photo of the Ridge Wolves with anything but disgust. It was never about raising a daughter, it was about building a bomb. He wanted me to get close to Elias, close enough to kill him, seduce, betray, destroy, easy, done, no blood spilled from his own hands, just mine. And the thing is, I think I could have done it, if I hadn't met him like that, if I hadn't seen the scar on his ribs or the look in his eyes when he bled for me or the way he called me his without touching me like he owned me, if I hadn't kissed him first, if I hadn't broken all the rules in my bones before I even knew they were there. But he didn't know that. My father didn't know I'd already failed the mission before it ever started. That's somewhere between the cage with no locks and the thunderstorm and the stupid way he said my name like it was sacred. I stopped being the bullet and started being the hand that couldn't pull the trigger. And now? Now I don't even know what I am, because I'm still sharp, still deadly, still full of rage and teeth and scars I haven't earned and a legacy I never asked for. But I don't know where to point it anymore. I don't know who the enemy is. Him? Me? Elias? The silence? I used to think I was a daughter, then I thought I was a prisoner, then a traitor, then a wolf. Now I'm just the weapon no one wants to claim, and I'm still loaded. I thought it would fade. I thought if I left, if I stayed away long enough, if I buried it beneath enough guilt and betrayal and silence, it would die on its own, this thing between us, this tether, this stupid, invisible, unbreakable thing that never asked for permission. But it didn't. It's still here. Every night, every goddamn night I feel him. Not like a memory, not like a dream, more like a shadow in my chest, like someone is still breathing inside my ribs. But it's not me. He doesn't say anything, Elias. But sometimes I hear his voice anyway, not words, just his tone, that calm, low, impossible steadiness. Like nothing I could ever do would scare him, not even this, not even leaving. Sometimes it feels like he's bleeding again, not real blood, just pain, loneliness, the kind that comes in waves and eats everything. And when I wake up, I'm already crying, and I don't even know who the tears are for. That's the part that fucks me up, because it's not just him I miss, it's me, the version of me that was wild and furious and lost and still burning. Not this thing I've become, this husk, this quiet, This girl who has to fake every smile and swallow every scream and pretend like being home doesn't feel like walking barefoot through a graveyard full of ghosts that were my face. I can still feel him when I sleep. But worse, I can still feel me. The me that ran through the ridge with a wolf inside her skin. The me that kissed him like the world was ending and didn't care. The me that fought to be more than a name in someone else's war. That version of me is louder than the dreams. She claws at the inside of my skull and howls when I look in the mirror and see nothing. And sometimes I wonder if the bond will ever break. But sometimes I wonder if I even want it to, because without it, I don't think I'd feel anything at all. I did it with my eyes wide open. No accident, no panic, no storm to blame. I chose it this time. I wanted him to see. He was standing there in the courtyard, hands behind his back like always, like he was too dignified for fists. He didn't even flinch. When I stepped out barefoot, shirt torn, chest heaving, but I saw it, the twitch, just a little one, in the corner of his mouth. That's how I knew he was afraid. He still thought I couldn't do it, still thought I was his little secret, his human weapon, his quiet, controllable daughter who didn't shift, didn't question, didn't stray too far from the path he carved out like a coffin. He thought I'd come back broken. But I didn't come back broken, I came back feral. It hurt, of course it hurt, my bones snapped, my skin burned. My lungs felt like they were drowning in ash. But it was a cleansing pain, a holy pain, the kind that doesn't kill you, it names you. I didn't scream. I let the crack of every vertebra echo through the stone walls, let the servants gasp and my father pale and the moon bear witness, let him know that the thing he thought he caged was never a bird, never something with clipped wings. I was never a daughter. I was a storm, fur, claws, teeth. The shift ripped me apart. And I stood up stronger, and he watched it happen. He watched me shatter everything he built with one choice, one howl, no apology, no leash, no shame, just me, wild and monstrous and finally free. And when I looked up at him, when I saw the horror bloom behind his eyes like a second moon, I didn't feel guilt, I didn't feel grief, not even rage. I just felt done, and for the first time in my entire fucking life. He looked small. He didn't yell, he didn't curse or throw a glass or raise a hand. He just looked at me. That's the part that made me want to peel my skin off, not rage, not even fear, disgust, like I was something wet and crawling, like I'd tracked blood into his cathedral. Just like your mother, he said, and I don't know why that cut deeper than claws ever could. I should have laughed, or spit, or walked away and never looked back. But I just stood there, chest still rising and falling like I hadn't figured out how to breathe in this new body yet. Monster, that's what he called me, not daughter, not even weapon anymore, monster. And it should have hurt more than it did, but it didn't, because for the first time I saw him for what he was, just a man, a bitter, hollow man who buried his wife, buried the truth, and tried to bury me too. And when the dirt didn't hold, when I crawled back up howling and alive, he called me unnatural. But I'm not the one who made monsters out of blood and promises. He did, he just never thought one would look him in the eye, so I did. And I smiled, just a little, just enough for him to see my teeth, and I said nothing. Because monsters don't beg for love. I didn't knock, I didn't need to. The front gate was open, the ridge was quiet in that thick, charged way, like the woods were holding their breath. I remember my boots sticking in the mud, heavy from the weight of what I'd done, or maybe just from the blood. I couldn't tell whose it was anymore. It didn't matter. I wasn't here to be clean. Someone saw me first, one of Elias's wolves. I think it was Mara. Her eyes went wide, not scared, not even surprised, just like she already knew I'd be back, like maybe they all did, like maybe they were waiting. I walked until my legs stopped arguing, until the weight in my chest settled into something dull and immovable, like a stone in the bottom of a river, like my body had finally caught up to my choice. He came out to meet me, he didn't say a word, and I didn't fall to my knees, I didn't cry, I didn't beg for anything this time. I just stood there, shaking, soaked through, blood on my collarbone, on my lips, mine, theirs, his. It's all the same now, isn't it? He didn't ask what happened. I think he already knew. I said, I'm done running, that's all, just that. No big speeches, no dramatic mate bond proclamation, just truth, quiet and aching and ugly. And he looked at me like I'd just set fire to the stars, not proud, not smug, just relieved, like maybe the worst part was over, like maybe I still had pieces left to salvage. I don't know what that makes me. I don't know what side this even is. All I know is I burned the bridge behind me and didn't check to see if anyone screamed, and I don't regret it. I just haven't figured out how to live with it yet. It started with the scent of ash. No warning, no message, no dream to pull me awake, just blood in the air and a scream that didn't sound human and didn't need to. By the time I got there, the ridge was already broken open, smoke bleeding from the treetops, fur matted with blood, snarling everywhere. The sound of bones cracking and spells shattering and someone calling for their mother, and I don't know who. I don't know if they made it. I didn't. God. I didn't recognize half the faces on the ground. Some of them I had dinner with. Some of them called me Luna. I should have been there, I should have. But it's too late for that, right? Too late to be the girl who picks flowers, too late to be anyone's daughter. So I shifted mid-run. I didn't wait for the moon. I didn't care about the rules. I didn't care if it hurt. I called the rogue pack with one howl. They came, every one of them I'd touched since the severing, outcasts, bastards, forgotten things like me. I don't even remember what I did. I don't remember the fight, just flashes, just sensation. Someone's arm in my mouth, someone's scream in my ears, my claws inside a vampire's ribcage, the taste of marrow. I think I laughed. I think I liked it. I think I liked it. I felt beautiful. I felt monstrous. I felt alive in the worst possible way, like every wrong thing inside me had found its outlet. And when it was done, when the last vampire was nothing but steam rising off the snow, I was still standing. That scared me more than dying ever could, because I could have been one of them. I was supposed to be, wasn't I? My father's little weapon, his silver bullet, his monster in waiting. And maybe I am, maybe I stopped trying not to be. All I know is, I didn't hesitate, I didn't cry, I didn't look away. I tore them apart because I wanted to, and now I can't wash any of it off. His blood didn't smell like anyone else's. That's how I knew it was him, not the body. Not the way he was curled under the edge of the ridge like a broken animal trying to hide, just the scent, salt and cedar and something like firewood soaked in rain. I almost didn't look, I think some part of me didn't want to know. But I did, and it was bad. He was trying to shift back, midway stuck between wolf and man, ribs exposed, flesh torn open like something had wanted to take his heart with its teeth. His hand was pressed to his side like that could stop it, like he still believed pressure mattered, like anything mattered. He was shaking, his eyes were open but not focused. He didn't even say my name, and all I could think was, no, 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 not like this, not after everything, not after I left, not after I came back covered in blood and stupid and too late. He told me I could go. He said he'd feel every step. I didn't think he meant this. I didn't think it would cost this. I dropped to my knees. I remember that, my bones cracking against the dirt like the world wanted to punish me physically too. My hands pressing against his chest and my voice. God, I was screaming. I think, I was begging. I said his name 100 times and none of them brought him back. I said I was sorry. I don't even know what I meant. Sorry for doubting him. For leaving. For wanting him. For everything. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to lose him. I can't. Because here's the thing about the mate bond, the part no one warns you about. It's not cute. It's not sexy. It's not some faded fairy tale kiss bullshit. It's violent. It's visceral. It's real. When he hurt, I did. When he bled, I bled. And when his heart started slowing, mine did too. I felt it, like someone unplugging the sun. Like my soul didn't know where to live anymore. Like death was reaching through him for me. It wasn't poetry. It wasn't some tragic metaphor. If he died, so did I. And maybe that's what I deserve. Maybe that's always been the point. But I still whispered, please. And this is the part one hate myself for. He heard me. I didn't do it out of instinct. I wasn't in heat. There was no spell, no bond pressure, no cosmic push. No one told me to. I just looked at him. His body half shifted. Blood still drying around his throat, breath hitching like it forgot how to keep going. And I knew, he wasn't a cage, he was the key, and I'd rather burn than lose that again. So I shifted, not all the way, just enough teeth, enough to bite, enough to bleed. It wasn't violent, it wasn't a branding, it was God. I don't know how to explain it. It was quiet, gentle, desperate, like trying to stitch a wound with your own skin. He blinked when I did it. His breath caught in that soft, pained way and his hand, shaking, found the back of my neck like he already knew, like he felt it too. And I said, you're mine, not because I wanted to own him, because I didn't want to lose him, because I didn't want to be afraid anymore. Because love isn't a fucking surrender, it's a choice, and I made mine with fangs. And blood and the sound of my heart clawing its way out of my chest. And you know what? Maybe that makes me weak. Maybe I've lost whatever moral high ground I was clinging to with my bloody nails. Maybe this is what everyone warned me about, but when he looked at me like that, like the pain was worth it, like I was worth it, I didn't feel like a prisoner, I didn't feel like a traitor, I didn't feel like a weapon, I felt like someone who was finally choosing their own goddamn story. And maybe it's ugly, maybe it's broken, maybe we both are, but at least it's real, and for the first time. I didn't want to run, I wanted to stay, right there, with him, and I wanted the world to try and tear us apart again, so I could bite back. There's no screaming anymore, no blood in the dirt, no scent of burning fur, no howls ripping through the night like sirens, just quiet, the kind that makes your ears ring, the kind that doesn't feel earned. Elias sleeps with one arm around me now, his breathing steady, heavy, alive, and I keep waiting for him to vanish, like the silence is a trick, like if I blink too long I'll wake up in that room with no locks again, a ghost of myself, still waiting to choose. The ridge is a graveyard, there's still blood in the roots, some of the wolves won't meet my eyes, some bow too deep, some avoid me altogether, I don't blame them, I'm not sure what I look like now, I haven't looked in a mirror since the night everything cracked open, I don't want to see what I became, I keep thinking I should feel victorious, like we won something, but what did we win? A burned forest, a broken bond with whatever I used to be, my father's body somewhere I can't bring myself to look for, and this ache in my chest that doesn't know how to unclench. There's food on the table, blankets folded, no chains, no orders, and yet I feel more hollow now than I did locked in a golden cage, like I burned too hot too fast, like I ran on fury and teeth for so long I don't remember how to just breathe. I thought the war would end and I'd finally know who I am, but all I've done is strip things away, rip pieces off, burn things down, now there's nothing left to fight. And I don't know who's standing in my skin. Sometimes I watch Elias sleep just to prove to myself I'm still here, that he's still real, that I didn't make him up, that all of this blood meant something, but the silence doesn't answer, it just hums, low, endless, like the pause between lightning and the strike, and I keep waiting for the next thunder. If anyone reads this, don't tell me I was wrong, don't tell me I should have fought harder, that I should have run, that I should have hated him, that I should have hated myself, because I did, God, I did. I hated him so much I couldn't breathe, I hated how gentle he was, how patient, how he waited while I tore myself apart and just stood there, like he knew I'd come back when I was ready, or when I broke enough to stop running. I hated the bond, I hated the way his pain felt like mine, I hated that I kissed him first, I hated that I wanted it, I hated that it didn't feel like magic, it felt like home. I know what I sound like, I know what people will say, that I'm brainwashed, that I'm sick, that I lost the fight, but maybe I never had one, maybe I was born to break like this, maybe I was always going to choose him in the end, even if I came home covered in blood, even if the silence never left my bones, even if I still dream in the voice of the girl I used to be. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I'm not asking for anything, just this, just the truth, just to say it out loud one goddamn time before it swallows me whole. He called me his mate, but I call him mine, and this time, I choose it.